Okay, so February 14th, 2026. It's 10 after 6 a.m. in the morning. I've been running around since 2. I'm tired though, right? I'm going to rest for a little while because I went back into the playroom. I pulled out some more stuff. There's just a few things kind of sitting in the floor it's going to take this. So that's all. What I'm saying is I ain't going to drag anything out until I take out what's by the door here. And then I'm just going to finish it, I suppose, hopefully tomorrow. Today. What am I talking about tomorrow? I'm going to lay down, I'm going to listen to my story, and then I kind of go in and out with sleep. And then I'm just going to get up, and as soon as I get up, grab a coffee, and then just start moving shit down again, right, by myself. And again, it's children's stuff. Now, I had given Tisha already a whole bunch of stuff, so I have a couple of bins there with just the leftover that, just whatever, right? And charts, children's charts, some bigger children's books, just stuff like that, right? Miscellaneous, whatever. It's stupid, man, just by the way they sprang this on me, right? I know it won't mean anything. I know it because everything's corrupt in Canada. It really is. And even if you stand up and you try and fight for yourself and fight for your rights, or whatever it is that you try to do for the right reasons, what I'm trying to say is, if it gets real freaking ugly, real ugly, because they're not giving me, they're just not giving me enough time to do what I need to do, considering everything else that I do. I got laundry in the wash machine that needs to be washed, but I'm too tired to run the machine right now, so I'm just going to let it sit there for another day while I do what I'm doing, because, knowing that whatever I'm doing is probably going to not be enough, because if they start taking my stuff seriously, okay, if they, like this right here, what I have here, right? It's been there for 15 fucking years. Give or take a few things, okay, right? There's a whole bunch of stuff up there for Amari. And, I got some really nice books here. Some of them are old, right? And you can't find them anymore. I'm just using that as an example, right? Or I have a shelf over there with more books, and I have, cans stacked on cans with, sparkles for crafts and other little things for crafts or whatever it is. I have a few things there stacked on with more books, right, that are for, to learn about electricity, to make your own little electrical, how they have these little kits for kids, those kind of things, right? If they start wanting me to get rid of that crap, I can't. I just can't, because if that's the case, then you might as well just empty out the whole fucking house, and I'll take you to court for stealing my stuff. Serious. It's legalized theft, people. What happened in the yard was legalized theft. Okay? And it's already been predicted through tenant advocacy groups and those types of things, those types of groups, right? That landlords, people within positions of authority, I guess you could say social workers, fire department, city bylaw officers, those kind of people, right? Goons that get hired on to do the dirty job of whatever it is to rattle tenants so that, it's easier to evict them out. Because it's, there's an end goal to it, right? There's an end goal to it, people, right? And if not that, then at least control the tenants or whatever, or the homeowner. It's not even about tenants, people. Homeowners, right? And, it would be different if I didn't have the mindset of already attempting at some point to sell my clothes, right? But if you expect me to put them outside in a plastic bag in the freaking shed to get them out of sight, I'm just using that as an example, because they're an inconvenience to whatever the agenda is, that end goal that is far away from me, okay? Outside of maybe making it so that I own hardly anything, if anything, after it's all said and done, because it's enough to even bring in a freaking nervous breakdown, or perhaps even a heart attack, okay? You know what I'm saying? Right? Brain aneurysm, from all the stress. Like, I put in 12 hours yesterday, and then, Andre went off and bought some sushi. I ate the sushi. I fell asleep. I got up, and I went right back at it. And, there's a part of me right now that wants to continue working, even though I'm tired, and my brain is telling me, this part of the brain, it's okay. You can lay down and listen to your story and just, power nap, because that's all it's going to be, right? Sleep, in and out, right? You know how that goes, right? And then just get up and just fucking do whatever you're going to do, knowing that whatever it is that you're going to do will probably not be enough, because I'm dealing with more than 50 years of a life here where strangers can come in and rip that 50 years or more, because I'm past the 50 years of accumulating things in my life, right? Right? In terms of a life with a family and whatever, right? If it's that simple for people just to come in and start taking your stuff. You got your smash and grab areas, right? You got your landlords that hide behind the city as the city hides behind the landlords so that nobody will take any responsibility, robbing you in your yard of everything that they deem unnecessary to them, because they want to, make it so that after this building on the corner over here is built, they want to sell these properties, right? So, they don't care what you want. They just care what they want. But they don't have a right to steal your stuff, especially when it gets into $8,000, $10,000 worth of stuff, because you're being told to get rid of everything. So what? I'm going to be told to get rid of half of what I have? Well, then forget it, man. Just take the kids. I'll walk out the door. You can come in with your goons, because that's what you're going to come in with, is a bunch of fucking goons. You can steal my stuff. I guess I'll go to the Supreme Court. I'll file a police report, because you need a report anyway, right? So I'll file a police report while the police are laughing at me, and quite possibly even perhaps refusing to file a report. And then if I can file a report, I'll just go to the Supreme Court and I'll just file. I don't know what I'll file, people. Maybe I'll file a couple of things. Maybe I'll just file one thing. I don't know. All I know is that people don't have a right to come into your life after 50 years of basically looking after yourself and your family and doing whatever, right? You know what I'm saying? I never went off and started a criminal organization so I could steal things from people, right? You know what I'm saying? I never went off and started a criminal organization so I could make a business with a front so that I could, be a shyster and destroy people's lives as I was doing extortion and doing bribes and just whatever, how ruthless business people take out their competitors and all that crap. I never did anything like that, but I started a business, a legitimate business, where the fire department came into my little condo, and blah, 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 had me go off and buy a fire extinguisher and all this shit. This was before I could get my license, and then I had to go to the police station and get them to sit and have a freaking conversation with me because I wanted to create a magazine. I wanted to create a magazine where I was promoting the fishing resorts on the island, because I lived in Victoria at that time, Victoria Island, right? And I was gonna try and promote the fishing resorts and everything that was up and down the island, and try and branch a little into Vancouver area onto the mainland, right? As I was like promoting featured dancers, like strippers, right? Right? And I was starting to sew for strippers and stuff, and that was my business. I really wanted to start that magazine. And then, work with the girls and make costumes and whatever, right? And because I was sewing for strippers, I was talking about strippers, oh my God, I had to go to the police station and have an interview with them to reassure them that I wasn't going to be running a freaking whore house. There's a difference between a brothel and a whore house, right? Compared to having a stripper come to your house and fit her for a costume. Or take a picture of her because she, and put it in the magazine or whatever I was going to do. So that because she was going to be at such and such a freaking fishing resort, because they were traveling the island. They were going to the little hotels in the island, up and down the island, the girls in those days, right? I got my license. It got approved. But the thing is, social services, manufactured poverty. Again, I didn't do anything wrong. I wasn't trying to commit no crimes, right? Yeah, I already had Brooks by that time. I was pregnant with Sierra. I was trying to get off and try and be independent. They didn't help me with nothing. Uncle John helped me with setting that all up in terms of giving me the moral support that I could do it and da-dee-dee-da-da, right? And it just was my sounding board, right? So that I had the confidence to at least try, right? And I did. I got my license. And then, of course, I had to inform social assistance because, quote unquote, I was on social assistance. And they told me, you only got 3 months. If you can't make money and start supporting yourself within 3 months, I hadn't even gotten the first page of the magazine figured out yet. I had just gotten my license, for crying out loud. I was insulted sitting in front of the police, right? You know what I'm saying? Because they were trying to, drill me as if I had intentions to be sending prostitutes to some fishing resort. And no. Right? And they said, you have to hand in your license or we're cutting you off of welfare. I did what I could for 3 months, right? And of course I didn't make any money. And I had to hand over my license, my business license. Yeah. When I had the foundation, working more with it, I still have it, right? Back in, I don't remember what year it was. Honestly, I don't. I'd have to look. I'd have to look. Maybe 2005, 4, 6, in around that time. Jerome, Teach's dad, had a gym. And he let me set up a little something there with the foundation at the entrance part of the, right before you go into the gym. It was quite large. I had to get a license for that. Yep. on top of already having the foundation. And right? But it was like, up where all the homeless people were. And it kind of took away from being able to do what I wanted to do. And it actually made it where Jerome had to shut down his business because people weren't going because of the homeless people that were out in the front before you go into the building. Hold on a minute. Heat on, sweater, and heating up. That's what's happening here. Dusty. Anyway, if I wasn't making an attempt to do anything, of anything, period, then I could say, yeah, there's issues, right? But there's only so many hours in a day. I've been abandoned. I really have. Sure, my son helps a little here and a little there, but that's all it is. Just a little here and a little there. And there's usually a price to pay for that. Well, there is a price to pay for that. He insults me. He puts me down. Oh my God, hold on. Yeah, so, I'm sitting here talking to myself because, the brain is going 100 miles a minute. They are using Amari because they can't really use Andre anymore and a loose screw. Right? In the old days, it was a loose screw, right? The stairs were dangerous because of a loose screw on a fucking rail. And the rail is still standing while the stairs are broken. Okay. But in those days, it was enough for them to come by because the call came in on the loose screw. And okay, so he was younger. They talked to him, blah, blah, blah. They did their check, blah, blah, blah. And they left. Okay. And now he's older, and whatever it is that they're offering him, he doesn't want it at this point. Right? That's not to say that, he wouldn't utilize anything in the future. But at this point, we're just trying to wrap our heads around what we've been going through for years. Because you have to remember, my son and his wife, they traumatized Andre and I, and that's just a fucking fact. With them constantly throwing stuff out and scattering things around and just locking me out of the basement for all those years. And, and my son won't take absolutely no responsibility for that drama and trauma that, he imported into Andre and I, and even Amari, because if, things get ranky, Amari gets, he's sensitive, right? He knows something's going on, right? Like when that bin was out and my son was just going around freaking doing whatever because he was told to get rid of everything, and boy, did he ever get rid of everything, right? And nobody wants to, okay, so what I'm trying to say is, and now they're going for the inside. Well, we knew that was coming. When they did it on the outside, we knew it was just a matter of time before they were going to try and do it on the inside. Because there's that New World Order Agenda 2030, which we're coming into now. And then, of course, there's the Agenda 2050, right? With the depopulation agenda, to put families into check, to hone in and fine-tune their energy weapons and their spyware, right? And their tracking methods and yada-yada. Okay? And of course they're gonna target more vulnerable families because we don't have the resources to fight back. Financially, we're not hanging out with a bunch of lawyers, sipping on martinis. At best, we just might get a legal aid lawyer. The only reason I would qualify at this point as a grandmother for a legal lawyer, like a legal aid lawyer, would be because they're like under my, custody, right? Guardianship, right? It's guardianship now, right? And outside of that, I had to fight for Andre. I never qualified for a legal aid lawyer. Hell no. That got approved by Victoria, by a supervisor, after a judge told me to go get one. I said, I already tried. I was denied because I was nothing more than a lowly freaking grandmother. So even if they gave me a legal aid lawyer, like that social worker, it's on here, and I'm going to listen to it, and I'm going to play a few little clips with me talking, because She says, well, I can get you a lawyer. I can get you a lawyer. Well, on what grounds? Why would you get me a lawyer, and what would be the grounds? How could I possibly fight back with what your agency is doing to me and my family? Okay? Because right now my son is raging because, it's like too much, right? Holy shit. And of course, he wants to do it his way. And I'm saying, well, no. We got to kind of do it my way, because if we don't do it my way, it's going to be harder for me to clean up the mess that you made. Right? Or maybe I'm not ready to just have you come in and with your big burly arms and scoop everything up and go throw it out into another fucking bin. Oh, I'm sorry, storage shed that I can never get to, would never get to, and it will just sit there and rot, right? Especially if it's not heated or whatever. For all we know, the mice could get into the freaking storage unit, and by the time I get there 4 years later, you'll be all chewed up, right? Mouse infested, rat infested, who knows? Or maybe it already got robbed, you know what I'm saying? Or maybe people just waiting for me to die so they can auction it off and make even more money for themselves, to compensate for what they paid for after they robbed me. Like, okay, and if I don't follow and I don't comply, because it's all about making you that slave where you're afraid, you gotta be afraid, they gotta put the fear in you. So what's the biggest fear that I have? Well, obviously losing Amari. But the thing is, so what? You're threatening Amari is not safe because of what? Even though he's been here since he's been born and he has no history of illness. He very rarely gets colds. He has no blood diseases. He has no autoimmune deficiencies outside of maybe the brain not giving the proper hormones or signals for his body to maybe absorb food, which is not my fault, right? Because of the cerebral palsy. They are using the cerebral palsy as a means to put themselves in a higher position of authority, to put their thumbs on a family. I'm not even going to say me, because they're not just doing this to me, people. You see, that's the thing, where they can come in and start following through on their agenda 2050, where you will own nothing and be happy. And if you don't submit to everything that they say that you need to do at their whim, there will be consequences in connection to that credit score, the tracking and the stalking and just whatever, right? You know what I'm saying? And so, by using Amari, in my opinion, is extortion, because they're threatening my grandson's well-being and safety and health and comfort and love, okay? So that they can, liquidate a bunch of books and craft material and fabric and clothes and maybe some dishes and a little bit of furniture. Oh, okay. So now that you've done that, then what? What's going to be the next? Oh, well, now you're blind. Okay. Well, we knew that was coming, but why did you have to destroy everything before we got there? Right? Why couldn't you give me time to work it out for myself? Being that Amari, there is what? His foot's like this? Well, yeah, because it's the cerebral palsy. They go like this, it happens. The ankle braces that they provided, okay? Whacked himself. He fractured his own tibia with their device. And then when Tisha took him to the hospital, they set his foot like this, curled. Okay? We didn't set the foot like that, they did. So he sat in his little cast like that for however long. And then just by the way he is and just by the very nature of his body, and he moves around constantly, he right? And it's just the way it is. But they see that and, like, oh, something wrong. No, it's not that there's something wrong. It's the fact that if you put him in those things with the bar in the middle, he breaks them, I take them back, broken. if they put a little spongy thing in, ask me to put this little spongy thing between his legs to, spread them out, right? He just rips them off and gets them all twisted up and ends up hurting himself because he moves around no matter what. If he has those ankle bracelet things on, he moves around. No, he'll go like this. Be a contortionist, for crying out loud, with those stupid things on. Okay? I'm just telling you, that's the way it is. And, like it's stupid, right? Because he doesn't get sick. Very seldom does he ever get sick. And when he is, he's only sick for a day or two, if that, in terms of like a cold, right? He's only had one real puking flu, and that was kind of scary, right? Because that was the Norway puking one with the bacteria, right? He picked that up from, Andre brought it back from Tisha's house, and then Amari ended up getting it, and that one was scary. But other than that, he only gets a cold once or twice a year, if that, people. And it's only for like 1 or 2 days. Right? He eats, he's happy, he's vibrant, he's vigorous, he's smart, he communicates, he's loving, he's extremely happy. That hasn't left him, right? And they don't care. He's just a tool. I feel more safer being in this house by myself with Amari in the living room in the event of a fire, okay? Since they're so freaking concerned about fire, because that's the big one. That's how they can really call in the big guns, right? The fire department, right? Just like, with the city. You gotta have backup, right? It's gotta be that backup, right? Putting Amari in a blanket, seriously, if I had to escape, and there was no way to escape, okay? I am strong enough and able enough to put Amari in a blanket and then put him on the windowsill here, right? And then hold the blanket and have him go down. And it's a very low drop. Not even 4 feet, 5 feet, or 6 feet. I don't know. I have to measure it. But from the window pane down to the ground, and that ground is dirt with wood chips on top. So there's nothing there that would injure him. Okay? And I could be strong enough to do that on my own if I was in the house by myself with Amari and something happened. I'm just using that as an example. Because they seem to think that I don't think about this shit. I had 5 kids. I always had to worry about freaking fire escaping, in case of a fire, right? I've lived in many houses, people, all right? Like I said, they treat me like I'm a crack addict, a fucking 12-year-old kid that's freaking borderline, if not retarded, right? Or some, just whatever, like it's pathetic. If I was in that bedroom down the hall, even with Andre, it would be almost impossible to get us out of that freaking window in there, as it is. If we couldn't come out. And if there's a fire out, you're not going to open up that damn door. No way. You have no choice but to get out through the window. And that's like a freaking 8, 10, 15-foot drop. 15 feet, and you're landing into gravel rocks, hard dirt. Yeah. With the gravel rocks and shit on there. Which one would you choose? Something that you can do, or something that's almost impossible to do? Right? Yeah. Fuck, you want to empty my fucking house? Fine, go ahead. I'll walk out. Will I go to a fucking shelter? I don't know. Are they safe? Because you got the same kind of fucking people working in there too. Tracking you and stalking you and writing up this on you and writing up that on you. Mistreating you, giving you double second messages. Speaking with forked tongue. Saying one thing, doing something else. Right? Not doing their jobs. Right? Or whatever. You're probably at more risk being in one of those things, especially when you're someone like me. standing up to the system. Oh, I heard you filed a report with the police because now you're mad that the social workers and the fire department took all your stuff. Well, wouldn't you be mad? It's the law. It's the law. Well, then fine. If it's the law, somebody threw it in my face. Oh, it's the law. You got to follow the law. I don't know. Show me the fucking law. Seriously. It's just like it's just stupid. If I was sitting on my butt doing nothing, then yeah, maybe I could say something about it. Like not say anything about it. I would, whatever. But 50 years. You have 50 years, 60 years of your life, and then somebody come in, and you know what? This is what they do. They come in and they fucking take the house, people. Oh, you're old now. You're senile. Yeah. You stubbed your toe, and we took you to the hospital, and now you're never being let out because you're asking to go home, and because you're asking to go home, all of a sudden you're senile. Yeah, and it just takes a few crooked social workers to sign a few forms saying, no, that can't go home, never going home, just like Uncle John, never going home. You're going over here, salut, goodbye. And then within a few years, those people will be dead and all their assets will be stolen. They can't steal a house from me, but they can steal what's inside. Yeah. And they'll use extortion and threats to do it. Yeah. And violence. Different forms of levels of violence. Yeah. And intimidation. Yeah. And don't ever think that if it happens to you, you're the only person, because you won't be. No. And don't ever think that you're fucking safe unless, of course, you're that psychopath that's sitting there like a demon, plotting and scheming who you can attack and hurt next. So that you can, prosper and brag about how much you have, how hard you work. Yeah, right. Whatever. So yeah, I'm getting ready to file a police report in my head. Well, my kids will be screaming at me, oh, you're still fighting with the government. Just give them what they want. Throw everything out. What's the matter with you? Amari's more important. Yeah, well, if it won't be that, it will be something else. It's just a matter of time before they come in with their fucking hands and just walk off with him. He represents big money. And you know what? So, we already know that we're going to give him to Amari. We're going to give Amari to Marcane or to Tisha. Well, after the way you've been treating me all these years with Andre and what you've been doing now with him, do you honestly think that they feel safe freaking looking after Amari with you guys in the background planning your next attack? In terms of, I'm not talking to them, I'm just talking, talking, right? Like, do you honestly think that they'd ever feel comfortable looking after Amari with the way you guys have been treating me and my quote-unquote family? With that cortisol going? They'd be scared. They wouldn't have a life. They'd know you'd be coming in with a year or two like clockwork with something, and then one day it's just going to blow up in their face. Oh, but as soon as Amari turns 19, ain't nobody going to give a shit about him, because I already had a social worker tell me, yeah, kids like Amari, everybody's all gooey, ooey, ooey when they're little, but when they get big and they're like adults and the resources or portfolios or whatever aren't available anymore, it's hard to find good care for them. Yeah. So for all these do-gooders causing all this problem, right? And for what? To abandon him in the end anyway, people. He's going to be abandoned by these people in the end anyway. And what they're doing is making it extremely, extremely hard for my family to pick up the pieces after the social workers basically destroy me. Yeah. Because they just, whatever. And the higher ups. Yeah. Well, higher ups. What's that supposed to mean? That girl didn't move. She didn't go nowhere. That's so. Oh, why you not involved? Oh, I'm moving. No, you're not. You just didn't wake up one day and decided to go move, quit the job, right? Move halfway across the country in one day. Yeah, last week you were talking to me. This week you're moving. Like, it doesn't compute, right? It doesn't add up. No, because you guys aren't honest. That's what it is. They're not honest. They never were honest. It was a setup. It was a freaking setup. And now they're using tactics that are freaking extortion. Extortion. Legalized extortion to justify legal theft. Yeah, as they're bringing in their stalking and targeting and AI monitoring of this and tracking of that and all this other crap with the energy weapons going through the house and in the yards and when you're driving down the street. Yeah. And people just want to sit on their asses and do nothing about that, hoping it won't happen to them. Yeah, right? Anyway. Take away Andre's opportunity to learn how to sell things. I guess he's not allowed to have a little side gig, right? As soon as you try and make money when you're poor, that's when they come in with their dirty hands and they make it impossible for you to freaking do anything. Yeah, what better way than to stir up the pot and make everything disappear? Yeah. Yeah. So that's all I got to say about that right now. Right? I'm just going to do what I can do. I haven't done anything wrong. Again, Amari has no history of being sick. He has a history of being damaged severely through medical negligence from the healthcare system. And maybe that's another reason why the heat is up on me. It could be this. I thought about this too, people. Now that I've got a doctor, a legitimate doctor, that has said that Amari's injury more than likely came from the time of his birth or right after birth. Like, as soon as he, right? Because he was twitching and he was doing all that shit when they were wiping him down. Okay? They don't, the government, the Attorney General, the Public Solicitor Attorney General, the Minister of Health, Minister of Children and Family Development, freaking any government freaking Ministry of Housing, it doesn't matter. None of them want that truth to get out. Never mind have a solid case and be able to stand the good fight in a court of law, being that it's so damn corrupt, no matter what, anyway. So, more reason to put the fire in on me and derail me, demoralize me, humiliate me, threaten me, extort me, push me over the edge, wear me down, wear me out, make me sick. Hope that I have a nervous breakdown so that what? I won't pursue what's right for Amari so that they can scoop him up and put him someplace else, regardless of whether it's with Marcaine Tisha or someplace else. Because you know it's a $4,000 ticket per month, tax-free, as gets him after me, right? And then what? That silenced me now because I don't have rights to my grandson anymore because I wouldn't get rid of fucking junk, even though it's never interrupted his growth when it came to Amari personally. Just so I couldn't take it to court to fight the good fight so that he could actually have good care after the age of 19? After the age of 19, when I'm not here anymore? Or do they just want him to be a little poor boy? Right? Depending on whoever looks after him when he's 19. Being that they don't want Andre involved with him. You know what I'm saying? Because God forbid, no, you can't take no responsibility for your nephew. That's not the right thing to do. No. Come over here and take this little program over here with all these delinquent kids that hang out over there. Yeah. And then when Andre acts out because he doesn't like being bullied, then he becomes labeled to be the bully. I don't think so. Oh my God. Anyway, yeah, I'm thinking that's another reason why they doing this out of nowhere. Yeah. It's not like they're giving me any freaking warning. Like I said, I just got the basement back a week ago in a bit. Those guys were going in and out. They were dragging it out. It took them like over a month to get that basement done. I couldn't do anything down there. They didn't want me down there. So anyway, yeah, the government don't want me to make inquiries and find out the truth for Amari, and never mind pursuing the matter in light of the truth coming up to light. They don't want that. Hell no. They want Marcaine taking Amari so that they can harass him for 2 years, every 2 years, for one reason or another. Because for some reason they seem to think that they freaking know everything, even though they're not even there for 1 second when it comes to the daily grind. Ever. Not even for 1 second when it comes to the daily grind. Ever. I don't think these people that make these whatever freaking decisions that they make, I don't think they've ever looked after a disabled child. Some of these people haven't even raised children yet. I'm just saying. Right? So yeah, since they're bringing in their goons and they're running me out of my house, stealing my shit. Theft is theft is theft. You think I'm going to stick around? Because, as they do that, they're going to take Amari, because they're not going to want me to have any power to pursue the matter of how he got injured and then maybe get something for him later on in life, so that after he's abandoned by all these so-called do-gooders, he won't be abandoned when he's an adult. And the people who are looking after him will have the resources to do it without fucking social workers coming in saying you're not doing good enough, basically, right? I'll just walk out. I ain't going to no fucking shelter out here. No fucking way. I don't want to be around any of these people anymore. I'm sick of it. And I'm going to go down to East Hastings. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to start there. I'm going to hook up with the street people. I ain't hooking up with no services outside of maybe legal advice. That's probably about it. And how I can get the fuck out of this stupid country. Maybe that. Maybe I'll find myself a coyote and cut a deal or something. Or maybe I'll get beat up out on the streets and be used and abused, and somebody will steal my shoes, and you know how it goes for single women, especially partially blind, well, mostly blind, elderly women out on the streets. But I'd take my chances out there first before I would anything out here in a certified capacity where it's so-called legitimate and loving and caring and professional. And they can take my shit. They can fucking destroy my life. I don't give a shit anymore, people. I'm fucking sick of it. Yeah. I'm tired of being abused by, I don't know what these things are anymore. Too many times I have tried to do shit for the right reasons, whether start a business, start a nonprofit, fight the good fight for the nonprofit. You know, I worked years and years and years and years to secure the trademark and did a lot of community stuff for a poor woman. It's amazing what I did. I raised my kids, right? You know what I'm saying? Looked after Uncle John for 23 years in my house. right? Basically. And so that was like 6 kids, right? Really. You could say I had 6 kids, not 5. I had 6. I had Uncle John. He ran with the pack. And, you know, I'm in a bad situation right now, but I'm still holding down the fort. I'm still doing what I'm supposed to be, quote unquote, doing. And I'm still thinking about trying to work on program development, even though, you know, there's a lot of hiccups in there. And I ain't getting no love for it. I'm not getting absolutely no love. I feel like I'm being eaten alive here. Yeah, I do. You know, because after even if this calms down, and I can maybe get my life back for a couple of months thinking, oh, I'm safe now, I can, you know, continue working on what I want to do when it comes to liquidating and organizing and that kind of crap. Selling whatever, giving away, or whatever I decide to do with it, right? Because I don't expect to sell it all, that's for sure. No. You know, I just don't want to throw out until we get a chance to try and sell what we can first. Then it will. And plus, I give to my kids things, you know, I give stuff to people all the time. Even when they were over there coming here helping, I was giving. So it all, you know, it all starts to add up, a little here, a little there, you know, blah, blah, blah. But, you know, it's just, people expect it all the time and not giving me not even $1 back for things or whatever, or expect just for me to give it to them or throw it out or just steal it. You know, stealing is a big one. And then what? It will be the yard. It will be the yard. It will just start up with the yard because that's the pattern. Right? Not with my neighbor over there that's got this problem over there. I can every problem that I've got is 20 times worse across the street. But ain't nobody saying or doing shit about that. Hell no. It's my yard. Yeah, my yard, because my yard is connected between these 2 houses with these 3 landlords, 3 homeowners, conniving and scheming how they can get more than $3 million per house. So that's $9 million from a bigwig that drives down the road, right? You know what I'm saying? And they want it for the Google map because they're obviously looking for maybe foreign investors now that the federal government has made it easier for foreign investors just to buy up even more properties in Canada as they destroy people like my family. Okay? I'm just saying, right? Right? That Agenda 2050. We're already going into Agenda 2030, right? And, you know, some things, they're ahead of it. You know, they got it where kids, they're bringing in, I think, in 2027 or something like that, where kids at age 12 can sign up for MAID, right? So that if they want to go and commit suicide and have help with that from a doctor, they can just leave school, go to the clinic, sign up with the doctor, and be dead within 3 fucking days. And not even tell the parents. Not even tell the parents. That's the laws that they're bringing in Canada. As they've already killed thousands and thousands of people. And they're targeting homeless people. Yeah. So what good is a shelter going to do for you when they're targeting you in the shelter to kill you because they don't want you to quote unquote be homeless and depressed? So here, we'll just give you an escape. Sign up for MAID and kill yourself with the assisted suicide, right? Yeah. No. That's not what I would do. I'd probably freeze my ass off and still fight the good fight. If I get beat up, well, I guess I get beat up. You can blame the social workers for that one. And the higher ups. Yeah. See, that's what my kids don't like about me. I will stand up and fight back. Because I know what it's like out there. I know I've already been there. I already told you that, people. Nobody was there for me when I was 15 fucking years old. I got a mugshot. That's it. That's exactly what I got. And it wasn't a mugshot because I personally was doing something wrong. It was that if I ended up dead, they could identify me in terms of the police doing their quote-unquote job. Yeah, right. There was no word social worker There was the word kiddie stroll. Do you know what a kiddie stroll is? If you don't, Google it. I'm sure you'll be enlightened. But nowhere was there ever a social worker looking out for kids. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, like, I'm not afraid to go down that fucking road. I'm not. If you're going to come in and start stealing my shit, threatening me, threatening my family, putting my family at risk, right? I had a dream Amari died. Why? Why did Amari die? What do you think? It had nothing to do with me. I just walked up to him and went to go check on him, and I'm like, oh, what the hell? I think he's dead. No, I woke up. I think he drowned. How did he die? I think he drowned. But he wasn't in water. Andre said I said he was in a bathtub, but no, he was not in a bathtub. There was no water around him, but somehow, some way, he drowned. I don't know how he drowned. So what does that mean? He's happy, he's healthy, he doesn't hardly ever get sick, he moves around, he talks, he communicates. All right? So how the hell did he die? It wasn't from me. I found him like that. And we don't leave him alone. 30 seconds. And now, because he's so freaking fast, he's like already off the couch. I leave the mat there now, specifically for him. I noticed though, when Andre's sleeping on it, like right now, if Mari was awake, I'm surprised he's not awake. Sometimes he wakes up at 4 a.m. Right now he's sleeping, so he must have been up when I was sleeping, because he's snoozing away right now. But if he wakes up at 4 a.m. and he goes for like the next 3 to 4 or 5 hours, because he'll do that, right? If Andre's on the mat like he is right now, Amari won't really go off the couch. He'll just lay there, and he's very happy to be close to it. He knows Andre's there, and he plays with his toys, and I give him a bottle, I'll change him or whatever, and he never really he doesn't go out of his way. He does not go out of his way to get onto that mat. If he's moving around or something, and maybe he coming a little too close to the edge and his body pushes him over, well, that's different. He might end up on the mat. But that's a 99% chance that he won't. But during the day, when Andre's up and I'm up, or there's just me in the house, or Andre, and maybe I'm downstairs and Andre's, and he'd go in the kitchen, he'd have to run right back. Because as soon as you leave, within 30 seconds, less than a minute, Amari's off the couch and on the mat and already banging on the piano and going for something. Yeah. You don't think I'm not up on that shit? I'm clearing out all around the mantelpiece now. I'm moving the TV up. I don't need people to tell me this shit, because I do this shit every fucking day, right? In terms of accommodating, quote unquote, Amari's needs, right? And 30 seconds, 30 freaking seconds, and he waits. He knows, and as soon as you're gone, that's it. He's off the couch, and he's moving, and he's grabbing. So now I'm working around that, right? I'm already planning in my head to sew bean bags downstairs to accommodate what's coming, based on what I'm going through right now with his milestones, right? Whether it's upstairs or downstairs in terms of floor space and on the couch or whatever, right? If he was on a bed, I'd have to bar him in. I'd have to. If he was on a normal bed, it would be impossible to leave him on a normal bed. And the rails, again, would have to be really, really high, because he can go like this and then pop over and flop over, right? So, it's not easy. Nothing easy, but these people are just making it harder and harder, to the point where now I'm going to East Hastings. If I ain't running to the border with a coyote to go to the freaking U.S. consulate on the other side, asking for help to get my kids out of this my grandkids out of this corrupt country. Remember those videos? Right? I'll fight tooth and nail. I probably won't never win, But at least I stood up for something. Well, same thing if I end up in East Hastings versus at the fucking local freaking women's shelter up over here. Why would I go there? It's the same kind of people, the same kind of mentality, same kind of fucking social workers, right? The same kind of gang stalking, the same kind of targeting, the same kind of everything. And I'd file a fucking police report for theft. I said it after they did everything they did in the yard. And of course, because I said it, and I'm somebody's watching my videos, they're taking their notes. Oh, well, we need to challenge that. We need to put that bitch in place right away, because God forbid, if the little slaves rebel and start filing more and more police reports against corrupt freaking ministry of this and ministry of that and yada, you know, there might be a revolution and we'll lose control of the slaves. So before it spreads out, you know, that's what the shadow banning is about. Before the information spreads out, before people get the courage to stand up and fight back, even if you're going to lose something from it, including a whole house of belongings, 50 years of your life, your whole life, practically. I got things in here that I had when I was a fucking kid, for crying out loud. Longer than 60 years. Right? I'm just saying. What, are you going to steal my grandfather's and my grandmother's freaking farm table from my bedroom? Because I have food on it, in terms of my 1-gallon jars with, you know, the dehydrated this or that, with some home canned goods or whatever. I'm not committing any crimes here. Andre goes into my room several times a week, grabbing this, grabbing that, eating up a storm. Right? So much so I want to lock up my bedroom. I told him, I'm going to lock up that bedroom. You just go in there too easy peasy and pick this and pick that. He picks all his favorite stuff. Right? All the salsas. Macaronis and spaghettis, I don't care. But, you know, and I've got lots of pasta sauces and stuff. But, you know, he'll just go and grab a whole can of olives and just eat the whole can of olives for himself. And then I go into the living room and I find an empty can of olives. That I don't like, because it's like, you know, $4 a can just for olives. But whatever. The point is he goes in there every 2-3 days, scooping up on this and scooping up on that. And oh, what a bad freaking Nana I am. Yeah. You'd rather have empty cupboards than you'd really have a case. In terms of these people that do this kind of crap. Yeah, you're going to treat me like a Native woman? Put me on the missing list, the missing list of Highway of Tears? Is that what they're hoping for? I'll just disappear on the Highway of Tears? Because you know I'll be crying. Right? Who wouldn't be crying? I'm just saying. Yeah. But once they disappear, who cares? C'est la vie, right? Just another blip in the universe. Doesn't mean anything. You ain't gonna get no justice. Even if you were murdered right in front of them, they'd find a way to ignore it and walk away and act like it never happened. And then lie through their teeth to cover it up, as they wait for their little handout on the bribe. So, you know, after the organs have been ripped out of my body, for the ones that they can salvage, because you know people are getting paid one way or another, even if it's just in brownie points. Like, I'm tired of this stupid bandwagon. Really tired of it. Yeah. And I know, if this calms down, if it calms down, right, it will be the city. And I told Andre, I'm going to leave it on this note, you know, we got to get ready for the city. It's not over yet, because somebody's going to call, and it could very well be my landlord or her son or her grandson or somebody in her long line of family members, right? Because, you know, they're losing money on the house, right? Plus, they need new workers in the yard, because I'm kind of worn out. I said, Andre, you know what? I'm just going to buy you a new weed whacker, and you need to be up on it every freaking week. It can't get too green. Right? You know, I can't do anything about it when it gets too gray. And they know it, but it's too gray. So if they come, they're going to have me do something, and it won't matter, because what can you do, right? Green, if it gets too green, well, you can always take a weed whacker and cut back, I guess, on the green, right? You know, like just like that fucking loose screw on a rail. Like they come with the most asinine freaking excuses sometimes, right? And they are so cagey about covering up what it is that they're doing, knowing that what they're doing is wrong, but they do it anyway, right? I told Andre, I'm going to buy you a brand new weed whacker. Forget about what Mr. and Mrs. Gill brought, because that one's broken and it doesn't work. It never worked properly. I don't know, something wrong with it when they used weed whacking. You know, that long little string thing? It comes out like really, it just flies out of the spool, right? And then before you know, it's like this, and it can whack him. Like he can injure himself with it, right? Because the one we had blew up. It caught on fire. And then I asked my landlords to buy one because, you know, I don't have the money for it. I'm paying for this, paying for that. And they came with some used one that it works, but it's broken and it's dangerous. So I just told Andre, don't worry, Nana's just going to buy you a brand new one. And you can go out there and weed whack every freaking week or whatever it is. I'm offered to pay him $400 to do yard work or whatever. I wanted him to help me to move stuff downstairs. But Mark Kane won't let him move not a damn thing because he keeps complaining about his shoulder. So, whatever. So now, you know, easy for Mark Kane to say, but whatever. So hopefully by spring, whatever, I don't know, you know, it doesn't take much to weed whack, right? Because if Mark Kane says, well, he can't weed whack because his shoulder is still sore, I'll be like, oh my God, like, this is pathetic. You know what? You don't even know. I don't, like, my hands are getting a little stiff because, you know, I put in 12 hours yesterday and I put in another, 5 hours today's already so far, right? So they're not achy. They don't hurt. Well, maybe my finger in here hurts a little bit because, you know, I'm lifting, right? I'm lifting heavy shit, right? And pulling and just carrying. And so what hurts though, what can get bad for me is my right lower hip in between my groin on the right, that with the pain going all the way down my right leg. And it gets to a point where I'm kind of like wobbling around like Uncle John because he used to have those kind of pains, right? And but that's just, you know, life, right? So I've been ignoring that. I've been feeling it, and at this point it's still somewhat tolerable. And that's what I told Andre, you know, sometimes you injure yourself somehow, some way, things happen, and it ends up becoming a lifelong problem where you have to pain manage it without drugs, that is, right? You know, you don't want to start popping a bunch of pills, right, just to maintain on whatever it is. And at this point, I don't. I push past the pain, right? And if it gets real bad, then of course I wouldn't do anything until it's subsided, right? And at this point, it is what it is. So yeah, like, you know, like I'm worrying about the city, and I haven't even dealt with the fire department yet, and finished with the social workers, and I'm already worried about the city showing back up, saying it's going to be too gray, too green. Yeah, because we're only into February. They'll come in April, May, March. They'll come in March. Nothing will be blooming yet. It will be too gray. Yeah, you didn't pick up the bricks. Something. It will be something. They dug out the, you know, for that sewage pipe, right? Made a big mound of something there, right? I asked Andre to start picking out the wood and do whatever, but he can't do it. And he couldn't do it in the winter. So, like, you know, it ain't over. It ain't over. And then what? My landlord starts threatening to kick me out again because of the yard. But yet nobody's helping me with the yard. And I'm having to buy now a weed whacker that won't injure my grandson. Because that's the responsible thing to do. Right? I'm just saying. Now that I know the other one just is pointless. I mean, you can use it, but use it at your own risk. And for Andre, that's not good. So I'm looking at another $200-300 or whatever the hell it is for a freaking weed whacker in the next couple of months. Oh wow, joy. But I might be on that highway of tears downtown. Yeah. If it gets real ugly. Yeah. Because I can relate to that better, honestly, than in terms of being a street person. Right? Compared to running to a little shelter, expecting a whole bunch of freaking professional people to help me with honesty and sincerity. If I had to choose between the two, I choose the streets up by the East Hastings area and try and network my way through my troubles there. Yeah, without relying too much on shelters, per se. Based on my experiences of a lifetime, being that my shit now is being robbed to one degree or another. If it goes in storage, I'll never see it again. It doesn't need to go in storage. I'm just saying. Right? Because it won't stop. Even if I put it wherever it is they want me to put it, it still won't stop. Because it's just going to come from another entity that's connected to the main hive with that agenda, whether it's 2030 or 2050, under a collective consensus to depopulate and or to crush the general population for those that have a spine, a backbone. You know what I mean? Right? You know, some self-dignity that won't submit to being a crook and a scoundrel just in order to survive and to get bragging rights. Oh yeah. Just saying. Oh my Lord.